Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. Hibs got back to winning ways, and I am joined by two of my lovely co-hosts. However, unfortunately, Liam can't join us as he is currently recovering from a pretty heavy weekend over in Portugal, Craig. But perhaps just as fortunate as Martin Boyle's opening goal at the weekend, we have been joined by a third member who has timed his return to Down the Slope to utter perfection. Harry is back.
Ew.
How you doing, mate? Was it
I'm
four or
good,
five
mate.
months?
Yeah, no, I think it's January, so just about 4 months.
Okay.
Mental. But we're back, and the cabbage have kept winning, mate. I said when I left, I hope Hibs just keep winning, and they seem to have done that. So I'm buzzing.
And I mean, we're talking. What was that? That would that have been all bar one episode of Hibs are good, Harry's good. I'm assuming that remained consistent while you're away.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, Liam seems to have managed to get his way in Candace doing that. But Craig, I know whenever he's asked how are you doing, he always does the Hibs are good, Craig's good. So at least that continued.
No worries. I'm just going to announce this to the whole podcast world. You're first back, but I think your audio sounds a bit shite, so try and fix that while I'm chatting to Craig. Craig, Hibs were absolutely fantastic at the weekend, especially for the first 45.
Very good. Really, really good actually. Uh, if we're going to sum up the whole game, first 45 was very, very, very good. Well impressed with it. I thought pretty much everybody was right on it. And then second half was a wee bit uh, less good to start, shall we say, a wee bit more
Mhm.
bit more of a nail biter, but got there in the end quite comfortably in the end.
Were you surprised with the changes to the team? Obviously, Miller didn't come back in, but other than that, sort of reverted back to the team that had played Dundee at home in the previous game at Easter Road.
Not overly surprised to be honest. I know there was a lot of chat actually, kind of. Well, I was surprised at the amount of people before the game that were kind of in favour of Myko coming back in. I still thought the consensus amongst the support was for Bowie, but there seemed to be a lot of people sort of supporting the change for Myko.
Mhm.
So yeah, good to see him back in. Uh, and I think Hoylett coming back in is quite an easy change. He definitely strikes me as a player that's like more for home games when
Yeah,
when you know you're going to have a bit more of the ball. Maybe sort of the other team's going to be uh, maybe try to play a bit more counter-attacking style, and Hoylett can
yeah.
get on the ball and create things.
Harry, how have you found your most improved player, Junior Hoylett, while you've been away?
I just keep seeing him improve week on week, mate. To be honest, I think that was actually one of his better games at the club. I thought he was really good, especially first half. I think a few of the boys that played well in the first half, I think we're going to come on to Myko, seemed to fall off a bit, especially after about the 55-minute mark. But every time he touched the ball, he just kind of like glided past players. There's a certain group of players we're going to talk about later that I think he had a few similar attributes to. But yeah, I thought he was fantastic. I'm talking
Yeah,
about midfielders. Craig, you looked confused.
that's all.
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic yesterday, and I think obviously hindsight's always helpful. We probably could have done with him starting against Aberdeen. I think that was probably a bit of a difference, but at least we bounced back with a win. And as we said at the start of the season, Hoylett will always play better against the lesser teams in the league, and Dundee United proved that we are definitely a lesser team.
Fucking losers, mate. As per Dundee United are fucking losers. Well, look, there's no other place to start. Hibs scored that early in the game. I'm not even sure. We maybe took kickoff, and then from there, Dundee United had the ball. We won the ball back nicely in the middle of the park. Hoylett finds Cadden, Cadden finds Gallagher, Gallagher finds Boyle, goal. Yeah, it was perhaps one of Martin Boyle's flukiest goals of the season.
It's lucky in the end, but like you say, you're right in saying the build up was lovely. It was
Hmm.
a really really nice build up for a goal. You get a bit of fortune in the end, but another decent ball in for Cadden. Luckily this time somebody managed to get on the end of it one way or another. Uh, but I think I said to Harry at the game, like sometimes I just don't feel like we test defenders enough. Like
Hmm.
it's not that difficult to just put the ball in an area and make somebody defend it, and quite often you'll get wee breaks like that. So yeah, it was delighted and sort of the perfect start for us in the game.
Yeah, it was a interesting choice I had to try and go off. I think he is left-footed, so to try and clear it with his left foot, put it back into the danger area instead of just sweeping it away with his right foot. And I mean, you could see in Martin Boyle's celebration, he wasn't quite sure what happened. Perhaps with both the goals, the ball seemed to go over the line in slow motion. But it really did pinpoint sorry, I was going to say it put a pin into a good start, but it really kicked us on for a really good start because to that point we'd sort of just let Dundee United have the ball and set a trap, maybe similar to what we did at Pittodrie last week as well, with Boyle's early chance. Was there any other sort of key highlights in between the goals that you felt as worth highlighting?
I think it was just constant pressure, to be honest. I just think we were all over them. Bex before the game, the Bex ometer I think was slightly off by saying it was the biggest game of our lifetime. But I do think
Outside cup
realist
finals, I think was
exactly
to be fair.
outside cup finals. But David Gray did say that the next five games were a cup final, and obviously we bounced back really well. And I think that after losing last week, there was a lot of pressure on the guys, and I think to come out the gates as they did, I think was massive. I think that was one of those games. I personally felt it after we conceded the goal that you could kind of feel tension rising and rising. But I think because we got that early goal, we just kind of eased into the game. And Dundee United, we've got a really good habit in the last few months of teams playing at Easter Road and looking really bad.
Hmm.
And all their fans will be like, oh, we're defensively a shambles. But if teams consistently keep looking crap against us, then we must be doing something right. So I just think that we controlled the game as much as we wanted.
Yeah, and again, I've referenced it a lot, like talking about other teams, like letting them have the ball, and maybe we disagreed in the early parts of the season, saying teams don't necessarily do that. But Hibs looked incredibly comfortable when Dundee United had the ball in the first half, and we were pressing them up, and obviously it leads to a chance before the second goal as well, where Levitt wins it back on the edge of the box. To be honest, I think Boyle probably could have maybe done a little bit better in his pass to Myko, but I think Myko takes a good touch, gets it onto his left foot, so it gets out his foot. It's a good save. Hoylett following up as well. Probably, if you were being uber critical on both of them, maybe you'd think they both probably should have scored. But it's good goalkeeping from the Dundee United keeper. But not too long after that, Craig, more sort of calamity from Dundee United. Really, a kind of clearance from Triantis, and Myko manages to just run untouched from the halfway line to about 16 yards out, and how different it is from 2 weeks ago when he smashes one off the inside of that post and it somehow stays out, whereas this time he finds the same inside of the post but it trickles over the line for him.
Yeah, look, it's a really good take from Miko. I think there's maybe an element of fortune in the finish because I think he maybe does scuff it a wee bit, but I think that's maybe just me being a wee bit picky there. But uh, really, when you look at it, it's a perfect finish because
Hmm.
yes, he does scuff it, but it zips in just off the post. I think it's a perfect area. The keeper can't really get to that down low across him. But I think the biggest thing with that goal is Dundee United defence, man.
Hmm.
It's bizarre though because they've been kind of known this season for maybe not being so potent at one end, but then quite solid and not conceding too many cheap goals. But I mean that is a definition of a cheap ball, cheap goal. Sorry, like you say, it's just a loose ball, a clearance from Triantis. I don't really think he's actually aiming to play Miko through. I think it's just a ball into space rather than trying to deal with it himself.
Hmm.
Uh, and then there's that moment where the United fence just kind of switch off and almost maybe leave it to each other. The two defenders at the back there, I think the guy in the middle certainly switched off. And then you could see Miko, there was like a wee moment of realisation when he's gone off. Like,
I'm in here,
nobody
aye.
wants it. So I'm in.
Hmm.
And then good pace from him. He looked, I don't know if you remember Zamama in the cup final in 2007 when he made the run.
Just kind of running on empty
And then
almost,
he
eh?
like ran out of legs at the end and kind of fell over the ball almost.
It's
Nah, good for him.
it was interesting. I was watching what was I watching? The overlap. Ian Wright was on it, and I think Ruud Hullet was on it or something, and they were talking that Ruud Hullet was talking but when he moved to striker, he said when he played as a winger, he thought he had to smash everything, whereas he very quickly realised when he started playing up front, it was just about, finding the target hit. And when you look at the strike carry that he scores with against Dundee United versus the one that he doesn't score with against Dundee, and there's probably ones earlier in the season as well where he's smashing them, and I think he should do better, but it does not matter how they go in. And I actually think on replay it looks a much better finish actually than probably it did at the game as well. I think at the game it looked like it really did just like trundle over the line.
Yeah, as you said earlier, it was both goals just kind of felt like slow motion going into the back of the net. So you were like half celebrating, half not, because you didn't actually know what was going on. And if you're scoring goals and the keeper can't get there, then you're doing something right.
Hmm.
So fair play to him. And as Craig said, at first I was a bit to lose the head because I thought he wasn't going to chase the ball because it looked like he thought Adebayoga or whatever his name was easily
Well, they
going to get
absolutely
it.
should have.
But and then he was like, I've got a step on this boy, and then he just turned the jets on.
Yeah.
So fair play to him. He done well with it. Like,
A lot of the comments that we've had in on sort of on our following the game tweets and stuff like that do sort of focus around Myko and his performance. Someone that has come in for quite a lot of criticism over the last few weeks, Paul Murray. Myko has started to look a lot like the player that we thought we were getting. Now he's getting a regular run of games. If he continues this form, is he one you'd consider bringing back next season if you could? I've just got another couple here. Stephen, can you guys discuss Big Myko? He's had his best game for Hibs at the weekend, but the only issue I have with him is at times his final decision making. After he did brilliantly driving forward, I thought he became indecisive when to pass or to go for goal. What's your thoughts? There was a couple other in there that I think I've scrolled past as well for Myko. Would you go as far as saying it was potentially his best performance in a Hibs shirt across both spells, Craig, or is there anything else, any other games that maybe would stand out to you?
I, to be fair, his last start at home against Dundee, I thought he was pretty good in that game as well.
Hmm.
I think probably getting the goal and the nature of the goal, yeah, maybe I think there is a wee bit of a caveat there that he's probably at fault for the Dundee United goal as
Oh,
well at the start of the second. Uh, I don't know if that's you disagreeing or
not my so my face was like I'm sorry, you, and he's in the middle of the box. He's taken a touch and he's missed the ball, and then the Dundee United player's been assisted by
He's not taking
it.
a
Or as
touch.
in,
He's all right. So
he's off balance.
he's off balance. He's tried to clear it with his left foot. I think he looks, in my opinion, like, and I'm not giving him too much credit here. He looks to me like a striker that's kind of panicking while he's defending, going, "I just need to get this to fuck," and he's swung it off balance with his weak foot. Do you know? I think if it was a more natural defensive player, they probably deal with that maybe better. I think his only instinct there is, he's already missed the first headers went off him, it's hit off him, and I think he's just seen the ball and sort of just went, I need to get that to fuck. Do you know what I mean? And maybe just lacked a little bit of composure in that moment. I personally wouldn't be too critical of him in that
No,
scenario.
I wouldn't be too critical, but I think it's probably fair to say that it is his fault. I'm not going to like put the guy on blast because I do think he's had a really good game out with that.
Hmm.
But I think if you break it down, it's poor defending. Like he gets underneath the header, misses a header to start with, and then uh, like
Kind of
swipes
shares.
basically, panics and swipes at the ball
So
and misses it.
the only game for me that springs to mind in terms of Myko maybe playing 90 minutes because all strikers it always takes you back to goals, but this one as well. But early on in his might even have been his first start or definitely maybe one of his first goals for Hibs against St Mirren when he bullied Gogic in the
I
3
was
nil
literally going
game.
to mention that as I still have that in my head as kind of player that we wanted to sign when we brought him in this season. Just on that one, I think both things can be true. I think Myko first half especially, I would say was his best game by far this season. But like if you break that down, it's an absolute howler for their goal. Like I don't think there's any getting around it. I think that's absolutely stinking. I don't care if you're a striker, goalkeeper, or anything in between. But like I'm not going to hold him accountable for that. As you say, he's a striker, and we should judge him on having a good performance. The team won, so who cares at the
Yeah.
end of the day? If we'd ended up drawn 2-2 or lost the game, might have had more choice words to say. But it's a team effort, and he helped the team more than he hurt the team at the weekend. So
I could give you a few of
um,
those choice words that Harry was mentioning
I bet.
at the weekend.
Eh, I mean, through the sort of let's say we've had quite a lot of comments come in after the game. Everyone's got back on the train after we'd lost a game. It was like, right, we've won again, so it feels new. Do you know, like you had a week of rubbish, but I think if Hibs had went in at half time 4-0 up, that wouldn't have flattered us. I think 2-0 flattered Dundee United in the first half. Boyle, when Declan Gallagher proceeded to pass it to him. I think Boyle should probably do better in that scenario. I think he tries to find Hoyle. I think he should probably get a shot off and goal. We've already spoke about Walton's double save from Kukurevich and
Toilet.
Hoyle. I really think if Hibs went in 3-4-0, that there could have been no complaints in it at halftime that flattered Dundee United. And Kev Wilson's asked us, Craig, um, was the first half the best we've played this season? We ripped them to shreds, played some really nice stuff, and should have got a couple more goals.
Now, earlier when I seen that question, I was trying to rack my brains at all the different games.
I've got one.
You've got one.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes against Dundee away when we lost 4-1. We were brilliant.
We were very good that 10 minutes, to be fair. But
And
it was a
and
short
had
lived.
and had he not got sent off and we won that game, would we have then went on, the butterfly
Ah,
effect? Like
That's it, mate.
well, I'm glad we're where we are. Put it that way.
Hey.
Uh, I think it's definitely up there. It is absolutely definitely up there. We caught Dundee United off guard, whether that was down to them or whether that was down to us. Obviously, nobody will ever be able to say. But I don't think it's a opinion that's sort of just held by Hibs fans. Sometimes you can watch it with the green tinted specs on
aye.
and think, "Oh, we should have scored 10 there." But I think pretty much everybody I've seen, uh, loser Jim Goodwin included, has pretty much had the same sort of assessment in the first half that they were miles off it, but we were very, very good and very, very sharp and punished them uh, massively. And yes, I would agree it should have been more.
It felt to me, Harry, that Hibs done everything that we needed to, and probably what myself, Craig, and Liam spoke about last week. How Dundee United are quite good at hanging around in games. It's almost like we knew that as much as they did, and in the first half went right. We're going to put this game to bed, this game to bed, and get it buried in the first half, and go from there.
Yeah, no, I think Gray set us out to try and take the game to them, and as you say, try and go in at half time knowing we've got the 3 points and go home. Obviously, the second half started as badly as it possibly could have done. And it was one of those games. I think it's just because it was the first game I was there in person. I honestly felt physically sick after they scored, and you're just full of dread for when they're going to score again. And being honest, apart from one, there was one throw in that was quite close to when we scored, I think, where they took a quick throw. We were completely sleeping, but they missed an open
Yeah.
header. But apart from that, and then obviously the save from Jordan Smith as well. He's another player that I feel so bad because when there's players that you just can't shake the feeling. But every week he proves me wrong. So Jordan Smith, I just believe in you now, mate. Okay, I'm just gonna. I just can't believe how good he's been. I don't think anybody expected it when he first signed for the club, and even after his first few games. But again, that's another mega save. Craig at the time was saying it was one of the saves of the season, and then even seeing it back, it's one of the ones that still looks really
Definitely.
impressive. So
Just
yeah,
unfortunate we go on to concede from. I
I
don't think it's
know,
necessarily the
I
result
know.
in corner, but like it's. I don't think there's anything he can really do with a goal. It's sort of flashed across in it, but and it's probably one of them. It doesn't look good for goalkeepers at that sort of angle and stuff. But I'm not sure there's a whole lot to do. The save's unbelievable, and
Yeah.
I'm choosing to not necessarily ignore it. But when I think that Dundee United didn't really offer anything, ultimately I'm just putting that almost like all into a bundle of like 5-10 minutes really but again after the goal I thought Hibs got back on top of it. We've had some comments again coming in. Tony Swanson, subs did the job today. I was delighted with our resilience, truly a team working as one. A couple other comments coming in from Dave and Chris and Tariq and maybe around maybe some options that maybe we are missing on the bench. But was there anyone in particular off the bench in the second half that really came on and impressed you, or was it more maybe just the collective and the timings of the subs to sort of move the game back in our control, Harry?
It was one of those ironic moments. We all have our daft things we can say. I'll point daftness at myself first. I think the last time I was on the pod, I slagged you off for saying that Myko's not a player that runs in behind, and since then he's almost scored 2 goals in 2 games at Easter Road running in behind. But for some reason, before the game, you told me and Craig that Dwight Gale doesn't score off the bench, and we were like,
No, I didn't say he
"That's."
doesn't. I think I never, I don't know what. Do you know what it is like? So see, like with
Just
Bowie,
trying to
like you
tell him.
see, no, you see Bowie coming
Yeah.
off the bench. He's big, he's strong, he's quick.
Yeah, no.
Gale's, I don't necessarily think strengths necessarily lie in that. Do you know what I mean? He's kind of a penalty box striker. He's not going to, whether a defender's played 70 minutes, he's not going to run away from them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got what
Uh,
you're saying. We
but
just thought it was funny because me and Craig instantly thought about 4 goals that he'd scored
It's
well,
off it.
definitely a stinker,
But
and I've got to be honest,
but
it's not your
as
best line.
and we've all had daft things we've said. I think everybody's probably got about 40 receipts from one episode from me earlier in the season. But anyway, I just think David Gray is absolutely smashing it. He's doing so much better than I thought that a person in their first managerial job could do.
yep.
He's almost playing it like you would in either like FIFA or Football Manager. You get to 60 minutes, you
Right,
make your subs,
right,
and then
boys,
they
on you
just
come.
end up scoring all exactly. All right, one striker looks tired, we'll put you on. All right, you're flagging. Boyle, you get off. Let's just attack them again. I think he made them at the perfect time because Dundee United were definitely in the ascendancy, and then as soon
Campbell
as
sub
Campbell came
especially.
on, it just seemed to bring a bit more energy to the team. I think we got ourselves back into the game. So fair play to David Gray and his coaching staff. They just keep chugging along. It's
Yeah.
magic.
It's kind of the perfect afternoon as well, and for your strikers, where three of the four that come on the pitch score goals, and the one that doesn't is probably the one that we all would consider the best, or do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's maybe the only disappointment is he the only one that didn't score is the only one that's contracted for next season currently. Um, but yeah, maybe if we could just get onto a couple individuals' performances that we've not actually mentioned yet. Maybe what a good one and maybe a not so good one. Where we've had a couple talking points in, and it focuses around the two players that were playing in central midfield for us at the weekend. We obviously tweeted around Dylan Levitt after the game, and we've had some comments come in from Beldam. Levitt was very good. What else have we got here? Sorry, Dave Williamson. Always rated Levitt the most comfortable player on the ball and best passer we have. He's and has been for a while when we weren't playing well. Started to put himself a bit out about a bit as well, which was potentially the only thing lacking from his game. Um, Contrary to that, Dave Graham and Chris Finn both highlighting maybe a little bit of a reduced impact from Nectar in the last couple of games. So, Dave, are we missing a player that can replace Nectar when he's putting in a poorer performance? And then, Chris, huge couple of games to go, and feel like Triantis might simply be running on empty. He's not bossing games like he was a few months ago and looks very leggy. Understandable as he's 21 and just completed his first season in midfield. Would you rest him v Celtic? And then I would even say that Tariq has maybe almost answered this question and said, is there a way back into the team for Joe Newell when Dylan Levitt's playing so well? So that midfield balance, Harry, talk to me about Dylan Levitt first. You're probably of the three of us, the chairman and founder of the Dylan Levitt fan club.
I just there's certain football players that I just think are very enjoyable to watch, and I think Dylan Levitt's one of them. The way he just moves the ball quickly, he's always one touch gone, one touch gone, and I just think he's such an exciting player to watch. The reason that I like going to football and still enjoy watching Scottish football and no really any elite European football is because I just feel that he's one of these players. He isn't like scripted. Like it doesn't seem like he's been told just do this and that's your job. He just seems to do what he wants to do to try and get the team forward. And I just find him a really entertaining player. And he's one of these players that even though he's not the type that will dribble at players, he'll still get attacks going and flowing. And in recent weeks, the biggest criticism we've all had of Levitt, and it's fair, is his physicality. But we were saying it at the game. He does look like he's put on. I don't know if it's a bit of muscle, but he just seemed a bit more confident when going into tackles.
Do you think
he wasn't really shirking away.
Do you think there is just like a match sharpness to that as
That's
well?
what I was
Like,
going to say.
Yeah.
because he is definitely. I mean, I think it's obvious for anyone that's seen down. He is. I mean, we even said coming out of sort of January, February time where he just looked fucked after 60 minutes all the time. I think even it was like
Clydebank.
was had a discussion on here between you two after Clydebank, maybe. Where he completed 90 minutes, obviously.
But my
at the
main
weekend.
thing with Levitt, though, and I think it's shown, like I know Liam said, and it's a fair point because Dundee United fans were saying it, is when the times are good. It's kind of almost like a Scott Allen, like a luxury player. Like that's what people I think see Levitt as. But if you've got a player that's that good, I think you need to start thinking, how can we get the best out of him? Because I think when he plays, we score more goals. It literally is that simple. And same with Triantis. I just think this system suits him a bit better because I don't think the three of them, Yo, Triantis, or Levitt, I don't think you get the best out of them when they've got too much defensive responsibility. But they'll still muck in when they've got the back three and then the wing backs behind them. But I just think that there's a freedom to the midfield at the moment because at the start of the season, the main gripe I had was the midfield would do nothing the entire game, whereas now they'll constantly look for the ball and they'll pick up positions, and they weren't doing that at the start of the season. So for me, and with Triantis, I just think it's the rest of the team's able to take a bit of the flack. I think that he's probably been going from an 8 out of 10 every week to a 6 out of 10, which is pretty much fine. Hopefully he ups the game for one or two games. I don't think he's been necessarily awful. I just don't think he's been as good as he was.
Aye, so going on to what Dave and Chris have said, I don't think either of them were necessarily critical of it. It's just maybe are we lacking that option to come off the bench, and then what Tariq said about Newell. I think Newell could, if Newell was fit, this would be a good time to maybe be getting minutes in him. Because I started thinking this, Craig, probably is, I was going to say as far back, it's probably about 4 games ago, but at Rangers away, I want to say Triantis gave the ball away, so I deleted the message, but I had it typed up to send in the Down the Slope community chat on WhatsApp that we've got with some of the listeners. And I was like, is Levitt and Triantis very quickly becoming potentially our best midfield pairing since, I don't know, maybe like McGinn, McGee, or Callan? So in terms of the comfortability, just the level of comfort they have in there with each other. And I think we are seeing that, and probably what Harry said. I think Triantis' legs maybe lets Levitt do more of what he's comfortable with. Levitt's ability to take the ball off the back line probably takes a little bit more pressure off of Triantis having to constantly do that. But I think it probably is fair to say in the last couple of games, Triantis has dropped a little bit. Do you think we could do with someone else in there off the bench that could maybe
Yes.
rest him up? Because he had, like Chris said, he's only 21.
Can I
Yeah,
just throw in
well,
a second question on that, Craig? Answer that, but are you worried at all about Manneh? Obviously, he came in January
Yeah,
and
but
he's not got a
yeah.
sniff.
uh, uh, but I'll answer the Manneh one first. No, I'm not worried about it, to be honest, because I think we've seen quite a lot with Gray so far. There's been plenty of players that have just had to wait and bide their time, where maybe you would be wanting to see them in team. But I think he seems to have a good knack at the moment of I don't even know how to describe it, like making players wait, and then when they come in, they're ready
Not
to go.
introducing
It's
until they're
almost like
ready. Aye.
he's waiting until he feels the time is right for them, and it's worked so far. Obviously, I know Martin Boyle, perfect example of that, was out the team for a long time. Well, in Martin Boyle terms, he was out the team for a long time, and then comes in and is playing superbly well. Jack Iredale is another one that had to wait. Rocky Bashiri at the start of the season had to wait. Uh, so I would say I'm placing my faith in the management staff that they're just sort of ticking him along nicely. Yes, obviously you absolutely do want somebody to come in to be able to come in for Trent. I think obviously squad options is something that everybody would want. But I think maybe at this stage of the season, Triantis is a starter, and Harry quite rightly points out that even though he has dipped a wee bit, he's still staying at a 6 out of 10,
Hmm.
which is by no means a disaster. He's a young player who's going to be kind of have ups and downs in his form. I'm more than happy to stick with him, obviously, just
Hmm.
now. And I think, yeah, Triantis and Levitt do work well together because they kind of have maybe opposite traits in some senses. And I think actually, I didn't actually get the chance to say it last week, but one of the things I noticed most at the Aberdeen game was that, especially in the first half, because it was up our end, so I could see it a lot better. Or the midfielders were kind of dropping into spaces up our end. Uh, Aberdeen, the way they were pressing it, just was not allowing Levitt and Triantis to work together. Like one of Levitt and Triantis could get the ball, but the way Aberdeen pressed, whoever came and picked up the ball, because they'd obviously identified that we play into Triantis and Levitt, and they would, as soon as one of them got the ball, they would surround that player, and there was no kind of way for. So, for example, it was Levitt had the ball. There was no way for him
Yeah.
to pop it into Triantis, who had tons of space around them. So they just kind of isolated them and stopped them working together. And I think maybe that was uh, one of the things that hurt us last week because they
Hmm.
do work so well together and kind of dovetail off each other and cover each other very well. Which, to be fair, is a trait that's running through our entire squad at the moment. Is kind of players maybe working in twos and threes and kind of covering each other off. One goes, one stays. Uh, but yeah, I think
Is it?
I'd like to see Manneh, but I'll put my faith in that there's something going on there.
I think there's probably some context with Manneh as well, where that season finished in November, I think, wasn't it? And then
Yeah.
he comes to Hibs not having a pre-season. Um, there was obviously that he was observing Ramadan as well. So it's probably is just good. Not that I mean it must be a factor if you're already not match fit. Do you know what I mean? You're not like fueling your body how you normally would for a sort of 3 p.m. game. I just think it's as well. Who would we have had on the bench at the weekend in midfield? Mariah Welsh. Maybe is that it in terms of
I
central
feel a bit for him,
midfielders?
by the way.
Uh,
I feel he's not. It's not like he's been hard done by because other players are playing so well. But I feel like anytime he's been asked to come into the squad and play, he has played really well. I know we talked about that the weekend before the game. Maybe sort of his attributes suit certain games.
mhm.
But I think ultimately, if you play so well, you deserve to be in the team. But I think just probably because the team is so playing so well, he's kind of found himself not getting
Yeah.
a look in really.
Obviously, the three games remaining are all massive in their own rights, but you would probably suggest that this Saturday's one is the one that you're maybe most unlikely to take 3 points from, and maybe you could, if you were going to rest players ahead of a sort of, and at the start, it would be at the start of the week of the final week of the season.
That's a
Could
get a
could
young get the youngsters on the
well,
pitch for that game, I reckon.
could you suggest? Would you? We're saying Triantis is maybe a little bit leggy. Would maybe Mariah Welsh be an option to come in for him at Celtic Park?
Uh,
I'd personally get what do you call it? I'd keep Hoyle out the team because I think he needs legs. Obviously, Gale I wouldn't start, and then I'd probably I'd probably start most of the same team, but apart from Hoyle out for Campbell, and then I wouldn't mind one of the two of Levitt or Triantis dropping out just because I do think that it's obviously everybody hates saying that you should prioritize one game over the other, but the St. Mirren game's such a better chance for us to pick up 3 points, and I really
Hmm.
think that that's where we should be going with our full strength team.
It's an in-
Um,
it's an interesting one, because you naturally think you need off the ball. When you go through to
yeah,
Glasgow, and to be fair, we do it a lot of our away games, sort of give up the ball, and but then there's the counter argument of in the 25-30% of the ball you have, you need to make sure that you look after that and that you're able to be productive with it. And, a Junior Hoylett, a Trant, as a Levitt, they are the three and the team that you go, well, they're going to give you your best opportunity of then progressing up the pitch. But we'll come on to that a little bit. We're not talking here about Trant as needs to be dropped. It's just,
would it
it's
help
not
has
him?
dropped, it's rested.
Aye,
It's
yeah,
rested.
exactly. Yeah, and he must have played every game other than the one he missed for his red card. I'm assuming he's played every single game, I think, since he's returned. And there's a good chance he's played 90 minutes in the majority of them as well. I don't have that I don't have that information at hand, but I don't recall him being substituted all that often either. Um, anyway, only other talking points we've had then have all been more around contracts, so maybe just have a quick quick touch on that before we look at the final three games, obviously starting with Celtic. Dwight Gale and Junior Hoylett are getting obviously a lot of praise. Beldam, Lasker, Hoylett and Gale must stay. There's a couple other ones in here as well. Adam Smith. Whilst losing Rocky and Boyle would be pretty annoying, perhaps we shouldn't be as concerned as we are. It's clear Gray can instill confidence in players, and perhaps he wouldn't see the drop off in quality people are expecting if we sign well. Which that's the big caveat at the end there.
Yeah.
And then Kevin, obvious ones, but for me, Boyle must stay. And he says in York one more year, please. I'm assuming that's Dwight Gale. Um,
Dwight York.
um, Look, I think it's pretty much. I think we would all agree that if you could get Rocky tied down, we all would. I think probably Martin Boyle's just proven again this season. I think is it 17 goals and 10 assists? I think Australia put out in for him in all
It's fucking
competitions this
mentally.
season now. I'll just
There was one of us, I genuinely can't remember if it was myself, was claiming the stat pad at the start of the season because of the League Cup.
for top goal
Uh,
scorer, me. I put Boyle as
was it
top
you?
goals. I put Boyle top goal scorer because he had 4 or 5 in the League Cup.
Is
I
Dylan Venti keeping that competitive or no quite? I'll claim that if he gets it.
So Martin Boyle, 41 games, 17 goals, 10 assists in all competitions this season.
That's such a
27
good
goal
return.
contra. So I think if we can get Martin Boyle tied down, obviously we absolutely would. But the other two, the sort of more senior players that came in the summer, Junior Hoylett and Dwight Gale, if I just had to ask you right now, both of you as one more dancer for each of them, yes or no, if you could extend them both by another year. Harry, you first.
Dwight, yes. Hoylett, no.
Oh,
I,
interesting.
I would give
I'm,
context, but you said one more answer.
I'll give my Lord word answers, and I'm the other way around. I'd say Hoylett, yes. Gale, no.
Right, Harry, tell me why you wouldn't extend Junior Hoylett.
I just think that if you're bringing McGran, I just think that I'd rather see
Forgot about that.
him split the minutes with Campbell than Hoylett being a
Okay.
three with him. I just think that's start like we've said several times we need to try and have a tight squad, even though we're going into Europe. I know we have to have an extra player or two, but I just hope we stick with the same system. And I just think it makes sense to have if you're bringing in
Aye.
a player like that. I just think that makes more sense than having three.
maybe not. Maybe it would be an option off the left-hand side though if we did have to change things up.
Aye, but that just stresses me. Ask Craig about Gayle. Ask Craig about
Craig,
Gayle.
same question to you. Why no for Dwight Gale?
Because I don't think he fancies it, to be honest. I think he'll want to retire at the end of the season. Me and my dad were actually talking about it last night, and if it was purely based on like my opinion of him, I would say yes. But like I say, I think maybe he will be wanting to retire at the end of the season. If he could get himself to a stage where he can still come on and contribute for 15, 20 minutes, I'd keep him in a heartbeat because I think the experience he'll be able to pass on to other strikers in the club, to other players in general, and I think Hibs fans are kind of all becoming a big fan of that sort of older, experienced head in the attacking department that can just show a wee bit of class up top, which I think he's doing this season. Knows where the back of the net is, but I think ultimately I think his legs are gone, and
Okay.
I think he'll want to retire. That's why I said no.
No, that's fair. So we did actually just have a wee comment in there from Paul as well when we're around the Myko stuff, saying would you bring him back next season if you could? And I asked this question at the game of Graham that I sat with. I think it was as might have been as Myko was running through, and if I presented you a hypothetical scenario of a 2-year extension for Boyle, a 1-year extension for Gale, obviously Bowie remains, and you could bring Myko in for like a nominal fee, say Swansea are happy just to sort of free up the wage, and you bring him in on a 2 or a 3-year deal. Have you seen enough from our group of strikers this year that you would back that for to go again next season?
I just think that when ideally we finish third and Aberdeen lose the cup final, I think you're going into Europe, and I want a player that's the caliber of Bowie. And like ideally, I would have what you got Boyle, Bowie. I don't think that Miko's in
But
that
would you
bracket.
put
I do
Gale
think
as
he's been
well?
yeah. Like, and I think having one veteran striker is always good, especially to like kind of get minutes in the league. Um, but
So
yeah,
you'd be
for
happy
me,
with 3 and maybe a slight upgrade on Myko?
yeah, exactly. Like I think if we were to give them all numbers, like out of 10, I'd say that Boyle and Bowie are probably a 9 out of 10. I wouldn't like the leader, who cares? And I would say that Miko's probably a 7, and I'd be wanting an 8 out of 10 going
Okay.
into a season that's
Is
as
that
important as next season.
is that a realistic ambition uh, in a squad uh,
And
harmony
yeah,
almost sense that is a better caliber player than Myko going to come in knowing that he's going to play second fiddle to Boyle and Bowie?
But
Like,
I don't want him to come in playing second fiddle. I want him to come in seeing how Gray's dealt with the squad and knowing that if he's good enough, he'll play.
yeah.
I suppose as well you've got some. Again, I suggest we would all be happy with Martin Boyle extending, and probably ideally would want more than just triggering the clause that's there. However, would there also be an element of sort of forward planning in that, Harry, where you know I don't think he'll get another contract at Hibs. Do you know after if he was to sign one in the summer, it's probably his last one. So maybe you would be looking to bring in that caliber of player, and maybe this summer's the right time to do it if things go well over the next couple of weeks. That maybe we'll have funds that we maybe wouldn't necessarily have free otherwise.
Like the main thing for me, striker's a very, very sexy position. It's the position on the football pitch that we get most excited about. And there's also Dylan Vente to come back, which could
He's not
potentially,
coming back.
do you know,
He's
think
been
Harry.
sold.
But
No,
He's,
anyway,
he's already said.
if he does get sold, that's even more money that we
Ellie
can put.
Yuan as well, of course.
Exactly, that's two players that we're probably going to get a decent chunk of money for. If we get the third place and get group stage, we're going to have loads of money. Even if we were to plonk that on one really good player, like
Well,
aye.
do you think, as the Hibs Observer ran this morning, French forward, now I'm going to try not and butcher this, Miguel Alfarel, Alfera, the Legia Warsaw striker who's hit 5 and 10 for someone on loan, is back on Hibs' radar after looking at him in January. On name alone, is that one that
Yeah,
would get the
we're
juices
stealing
going?
content from future transfer episodes here. Let's wrap this and get going, lad.
Fair, 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 fair,
Don't know
fair.
anything about him, so can't contribute. Sorry.
But the name alone, that's
Ah, yeah, no, fair. Get him in.
Great name. Get him in.
5 year deal.
right, Harry. You wanted us to go super clickbaity. What we're about to publish after this episode and go as far as say that third place was wrapped up, and I told you to fucking wrap it. 3 games left. 3 games in 7 days. 2 Glasgow sides. A trip to Paisley in between them. How many points do Hibs need to bag third place?
We're 3 points ahead of Aberdeen.
3 points ahead of Aberdeen currently, 6 points ahead of Dundee United. Aberdeen travel to Ibrox on Sunday to then host Celtic and finish at home to Dundee United.
Being honest, I don't actually know if we need any. I'm not even being I've said several times since about a month ago. I don't think Aberdeen are very good. I think to feel comfortable, I think 3 more points, 100% confirmed. I don't see Aberdeen picking up points in all 3 of their games. But I think 1 win away to St Mirren, and I think that's as good as ours. I think that's what we need to pin our hopes on. I think last day of the season, at home, we've won 8 on the bounce, which I think I saw a stat today was the first time since 1990 or something, or 89-90 season.
Yes, I think so.
Unbelievable, another incredible stat. I think we'll at least get a point off Rangers. I just don't see Aberdeen managing to get points off the Old Firm. I know they've looked okay in some games, but I just don't see them doing it.
Okay.
That I might just be being biased, but yeah.
So in your mind, probably 1 point would almost all but secure it, but a win would definitely do it. Craig?
I think so Harry's basically saying we're 3 points ahead and doesn't think Aberdeen are going to win any games. So is that what you mean, Harry? So
we're 3 points ahead. If Aberdeen win 1 game and we lose all 3, they can't get ahead of us. Our goal difference is so far it's as well being another point.
So I'll tell you that the hypothetical situation that I've been thinking about in my head, which I think gets it.
But you also had them going to St Mirren and winning, so
I said I think it could be possible. I was close. I was only 2 goals
Comfort
off.
me with my Dwight Gale shout.
Fair enough. Right, so I think both teams lose this weekend. I think we lose to Celtic away, and I think Aberdeen lose to Rangers away. Is that
so
right?
Is it confirmed?
Yeah. They're
that's
playing
what I'm saying. So going into the last game of the season,
no, because that wouldn't be confirmed. That wouldn't be confirmed.
No, it
be 3
wouldn't be
points
confirmed.
ahead.
But if they picked up 4 out of their last 2, then
Aye.
so.
Oh, I thought you said they lost Rangers as well.
No, it says if we lose at Celtic Park, they lose at Ibrox.
Yeah. So then I think if we beat St Mirren after that, that's it. Because then that would, obviously it's technical mathematically, but it would be because obviously the superior goal difference isn't going to be overturned. That would be we beat St Mirren.
Best case they can do is be 3 behind us.
Yeah. Or best case is they can get level on points. So yeah, I think we just I'm on Harry's boat. All hopes go St Mirren. I think the atmosphere in that away end, by the way, that's going to be so good.
So I don't think they'll win at Ibrox, but I don't think it's out with the realms of possibility that they do. I don't think Barry Ferguson's won a league game at Ibrox yet, which is mental. However, Aberdeen have been pretty useless away from home all season. I think since their first run, I heard the manager saying as much after the game on Saturday.
You need buy into the law of averages, Ewan.
Well,
the law of averages says that Barry will get a win.
I think Rangers will beat them. I think Rangers will beat them on Sunday. However, I also think Aberdeen will get points against Celtic. Whether that's point or points, I'm not sure. I don't think they'll lose that game. So I think the St Mirren game is ultimately where it's going to come down to. Obviously, we'll talk about the St Mirren game next week, following the Celtic game. But I still think to feel comfortable, Hibs need 3 points. If I'm being totally honest, I expect Aberdeen to get at least 4 points from their last 2 games at Pittodrie. I think they will at least.
They play at Tannadice, do they not?
Is it at Tannadice?
I think it's at Tannadice. I found that out the other day because I was thinking the same. I was feeling a bit more negative about it, and then I heard they were away, and I thought, oh, that's another.
Do you know they did play Dundee United at home the same day. They finished at Tannadice. Hibs win. Hibs are done. That's it.
Let's just be positive, guys. We've been fucking phenomenal all season. We get 3 points. We're there. End of story.
It's done. End of. Do you know what my biggest? Do you know what my biggest concern with the St Mirren game is going into the last week of the season. If they go to Tannadice and win at the weekend, they're
It's
only
got
they're then
heaps of
on
pressure on
they're
us.
in only 2 points behind Dundee United. I would quite like Dundee United to get their shit together this weekend and
How funny
finish
would
St
it be
Mirren's
if they
season.
finish sixth? Come on now, lads.
No, I know, but the only the only way Dundee United finish sixth is probably if we beat St Mirren. Sorry, if we lose to St Mirren. Do you know what I mean? Like,
And we're talking hypotheticals
no,
of
but
other
we're
teams
talking
for far too long,
as
lads. Let's
well.
get back on cue. Let's get back on cue.
So let me get this right. So Aberdeen need to go to Tannadice. Sorry, I had in my head they were playing them at home. I think
Go on,
Hibs need
go
a
on.
point. Hibs need a point.
Aye,
I think a point will do it. I think a point from the three games will do it. Harry, is that point going to come at Celtic Park?
no.
It's not. Okay. And to that point, then, as we were discussing earlier, would you ring the changes ahead of the two other games?
I personally would. I don't think Gray will. I think Gray wants to just keep playing his strongest team that's worked for him so far this season. I don't see him going away from it. I think he might. I think we'll probably see Campbell come in for Hoylett, but I don't think that's him seeing it as resting Hoylett. I just think he suits that game a bit better in Gray's head. And I think that we'll probably still stick with Myko up top starting just because how impactful the subs have been as well. Miko's definitely come onto a game his last two or three.
I
So
think we've seen enough, to be honest, to suggest that for the three games, maybe Myko, an hour of Myko and half an hour of Bowie might be the most effective
I've got a
of
wee
them.
get a caveat to that because genuinely just earlier when you were chatting and kind of looking ahead to the Celtic game and talking about what changes you make, I was thinking I'd probably start Miko at Celtic Park with a view to starting Bowie at St Mirren because I think
Okay.
that game suits him more with the physicality and the. Sometimes I feel when you're at St Mirren, it feels a wee bit claustrophobic, and I think that suits Bowie a bit more because
Okay.
he's going to be well, he's going to be asked and going to have to back into a lot of defenders and hold the ball up and win fouls, which is maybe slightly different to what's asked you at Easter Road. I don't think there's quite as much emphasis on that side of the game. Whereas away to St Mirren, I think there definitely will be more of an emphasis on the physical side of
Right.
the game, and I think Bowie offers you a lot more there.
So we definitely agree that Miko will probably start this weekend with Boyle up top.
Yeah,
Craig, would you bring Lewis Miller in if if he trains all week? He joined training at the end of last week, came off the bench at the weekend. But
I'd
Hora had one of his
absolutely
best
definitely
games.
give him minutes. Right, so I'll answer your first question, and I'll come back to Warner Hora in a bit. Or Hora, Liam will be punching his fucking screen. Uh, the Lewis Miller, I would absolutely definitely give him minutes to try and get him. I don't feel like it should take too long to get him back up to speed, because
It's
he's
only
only
a
been out
game.
for a couple of weeks. So get Miller in, get him some minutes, get him back up to fully back up to speed, and then with Warren Hora, I didn't think he was as good as a lot of
Okay.
people have been making out. Just to caveat that with, I didn't see the same level of performance. I thought he was okay, but I don't think he was great.
I thought he done well. Just to be fair, the back three weren't exactly overly tested, but I just think as part of that three, they just got really tight in the first half, especially Dundee United. Let's set up with a front three, and just they just really got tight to them and ensured that we sort of. I mean, Iredale said it on the Hibby Buzz, sort of were able to maintain waves of attack. Dundee United couldn't really get out. But yeah, no, I mean, each to their own. So I'm sensing kind of from what both of you are saying, it's well, obviously try and go through to Celtic and get something, but kind of make sure we are in the best case scenario for the St Mirren game. Is that
Are we
really
going for the old avoid a scudding at Celtic Park? Like keep the momentum going, just try not to get pumped. I don't
I
want.
just don't, I
I
just don't
think
think
Gray will be
Celtic.
going wanting a result. Like why not?
Oh yeah, 100%. But just squad wise, like you're talking about getting Miller up to speed, playing Miko because Bowie's better to play at St Mirren. Like it's not writing it off, but we sort of know where our
Yeah,
opportunities
I
lie.
I, I think that everybody. It'll be difficult for Gray not to because I think it's clearly obvious that the more winnable game is St Mirren. So I think certainly as a fan base, there's definitely one eye is on Paisley rather than on this
That makes
weekend.
sense. Right, anyway, quick score predictions then. I'll set us off because I'm worried about what you two are going to say. I think it will finish 2-2. I think Celtic are going to be sleeping. They basically said that game there was the last one they gave a fuck about until the cup final. I think Hibs will go to a 2-0 lead, and then Celtic will bring on the big boys and peg us back, to be honest. There you go.
Can I just say, I've been on this pod for so long, and I can't believe the negativity you're spewing. 3-2 Hibs, Ewan's what you're meant to say. I think we'll do a John McGinn game, but it'll be Dylan Levitt that scores both the goals.
You
And
mean
then
in
I
the game
think
that was 2-2 and
exactly what you said, but this time we're actually going to have Big Bowie score the winner at the end. So it's going to be
okay.
3-2 absolute limbs as we confirm third.
Oh, what a place today! Could you imagine watching that Aberdeen Rangers game on Sunday? And if they
Oh.
didn't, that'd be lovely. What about you, Craig?
I was genuinely sitting there thinking to myself, am I doing the blind optimism Hibs supporters club, or am I doing the realistics? So by Harry's hands, I'll go for the blind optimism. I'll say fuck it, 3-0 Hibs. They're on holiday, so Hibs do the job.
Do you know, Craig? You've been with us this season now, and you've just fully got in. You've told us throughout the episode that we're going to lose the game. Score prediction: I think we'll win this game 3-0.
Comfortable,
Right,
mate, comfortable.
we are going to finish this episode with our top five central midfielders of this century at Hibs, obviously. We had quite a bit of debate over the last few days on how we're going to categorize this. And we have landed ultimately on whether you are a defensive midfielder, a traditional centre midfielder, or a number 10, as they are called. If you could play in the centre of the park, you are included in this list. So perhaps Scott Allen might make an appearance, or maybe even Mark Milligan, who knows? But there won't be, for argument's sake, who wouldn't be showing up? I don't know, Zamama, because I'm sure he would fall under a winger. So, Harry, it's your first one of these lists, so I'll give you the honour. Who is your fifth best Hibs central midfielder of this century?
I've been listening every week, lads, and I still don't know the rules. Do I mention honourable mentions at the
Nah,
start? Do we do
if
them
there's
towards
anyone
the
you
end?
feel, if you
All right,
feel the,
I'll
Do
leave
the
it. I'll
end.
wait till you've done your 5 and 4, and
aye,
then because I think the top three in my head looks pretty set.
okay.
But for me, number 5, I still see Zamama as an attack midfielder. Essentially, I see him as he could have played anywhere across the left
So the
wing.
example that I used, you're
But
now,
yeah, no, but I've not included him.
okay.
I thought you would throw
Oh,
a hissy
I was
fit, so
about
I
to lose
didn't
the
include
plot
him.
there.
I didn't include him because I thought you'd have a hissy. As I
You were
mentioned
right.
earlier, I like footballers that are just simply good at football and they're fun to watch. And I love a killer pass. And no Hibs player in my lifetime has played a better killer pass than Scott Allen. Comes in at number 5. I think he had one of the best haircuts of any Hibs player that we've ever seen as well. I thought it was
Inspired
very
Greg for
handsome.
many years.
Exactly. He was a very handsome chap, and his football reflected that. If you can show your personality and your looks, you've got a fan in me. I love Scott Allen, number 5.
Scott Allen is also my number 5, and I have nothing else to add on that. Craig, who is your number 5?
Do you know what? It was kind of bizarre. Like Harry mentioned, the top three is absolutely locked down, probably for everybody. Well, maybe not actually. Maybe there'll be the odd one that changes. And I was expecting coming into this to like really struggle to pick, like for the right reasons in terms of selection, excluding somebody. But I struggled to get a fifth.
All right, okay.
I just
Like
couldn't.
just a lot of players that were sort of similar and
And ones that I was like, is he in
right,
that
okay.
bracket? So do you know what? I was torn between two. One which is still in the squad just now, and one was a cup winner. So after sort of conversation with Harry, I felt I had to go with the cup winner. So I'm going to go with Dylan McGeoch at number 5.
Okay.
I thought he was superb when he was in, bags of ability, and he was part of that midfield three, which all make my list. That
hmm
was so good for Hibs. So yeah.
And we know he won't be making Harry's list. Just for some context, Liam's very kindly, I think, from his hungover state in bed, provided us with his list. And Liam's list at number 5, he has John O'Neill. Craig, take us away with your number 4.
I'll just give you the name because Harry's already covered him. Scott Allen.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's high. Interesting. That means you don't have someone that I do.
Same reasons
Mine.
as last week.
All right. Okay. This is going to be a very samey list, I think. My number 4 is Uzi. I've got him at number 4. just like that team was just at the perfect time for the three of us sort of growing up, really falling in love with Hibs. Um, and just a cultured football player, devastated when he went to Coventry. Remember his goal against Hearts quite vividly. Easy for me to say. And then also remember being quite upset when he signed for fucking Hamilton towards the end of his career and just being like, "What are we doing here, son?" But Boozy, who we got some nice stories about from Ivan Sproul on our episode with him. I mean, what would that have been, about 3 years ago now? Well documented, of course, but Boozy's my number four. Harry, what about you?
Yeah, and just to say now that we've covered off, I don't think any of the honourable mentions. I feel bad for defensive mids. I think Bartley, Milligan, Milligan probably less so. He's just kind of a cult hero for Craig and I. I also thought Fraser Fivey was pretty good in his time, but the person I went for number four just because it was. I went to a couple of games when he was playing, and I just remember how excited the older Hibs fans than me were at him. And then you watch the 6-2 game back. Russell Latapy. The only reason he's not higher on the list for me is just because obviously I don't have as many like vivid memories of him.
Mhm.
And I respect Craig for listing his base purely off his like own lived experiences, but I just think Russell Latapy with Liam not being here, I think it would be a miss to have a 21st century list without him on it. So I wanted to make sure that he was mentioned. I think Russell
Mhm.
Latapy was just everything exciting that you love to see. He's the type of player that whenever he got on the ball, you'd get on your feet to see what he would do next.
Mhm.
And I just think he was a wee magician.
That's very fair. Harry, do you want to take us away with
You,
your
you you take us away with number three, mate. You get to kick off a number for a change.
Russell Latapy is my number three at number three for the exact reason that you've provided. I used similar logic for Frank Soze last week. Yeah, I mean, there's literally nothing that we could add that would do any more justice to him. He secured his spot in my. I was actually with my uncle yesterday, who up until a couple of years before the cup final went home and away from sort of um his sort of 16s, and yeah, he would wax lyrical about him all day, every day if he could. And then Liam's number three is Scott Brown. Uh, Harry, your number three?
Yeah, my number three was Boozy.
Okay.
Again, just he was one of the players that made me fall in love with football. I just thought he was so fun to watch. There's something about a like European player coming to the club that's just I don't know, quite
Ian
poetic.
Bozalan.
Exactly, great name, Boozy, great nickname. And again, just another footballer. It's just nice to watch. And I enjoy footballers that are good at football. I know that sounds stupid, but these days in Scottish football, especially, there's so many athletes that just kind of like dot around the park and bring energy. But he was the type of guy that you could kick the ball 2 miles in the air and he'd bring it down with it,
Really
breaking a
enjoy the
sweat.
way he says Hibs as well. It's like Ibs. Like perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. Craig, who's your number three?
Also Boozy.
Right.
Also
Okay.
Boozy. Just I remember there was a certain player that was described in more recent years as gravy, which was an injustice to this man. So yeah, he was the definition of a gravy footballer.
hmm so I think we're going to be pretty consistent here with the players that are remaining. No surprises, I don't think. Liam's number two is Russell Latapy. And then if I'm looking at our free lists, I believe we are going to have the same top two depending on the order, and I would be surprised, excuse me, if we don't have a consensus number one here between the four of us. Let's go quickly around the table. My number two is Scott Brown. Craig?
Yep,
Yep.
Scott Brown.
Harry?
I've got Jimmy Jeggo. I think he was brilliant. Now Scott Brown.
Okay.
Um, I thought he was one that you were going to try and be pedantic about as well, because obviously he did play right mid for Hibs for a
Ah,
bit.
no, centre midfielder.
But yeah, no, central midfielder. I think the game that I always think about when it's Scott Brown at Hibs was the 3-0 game. Just the run he made from our box. I think it was for the second goal.
Hmm
Just unbelievable. He's one of these players that you just wish you could have had for his whole career. Absolutely phenomenal football player. One of the biggest shithouseries we've had in Scottish football. It's hard to find words to describe him and number one. But Craig, and you go for it if you've got any words.
Uh, no, Scott Brown, just much like Brucey, I think coming in at that time and, you know, like I said earlier, falling in love with Hibs and, the sort of being part of the the game at Hampden against Rangers where we won on penalties and, being part of that team and then going on to win the cup and being really good in that. And I even remember like in his last game for Hibs, like when his deal with Celtic had already been done, and even till the last minute, he scores in that game, and then gets applauded as he gets man of the match by all four stands, and then I think as well, I think I quite enjoyed in a little way the fact that he then sort of ignored Hibs when he left. Do you know, like in a weird way, like it wasn't like it was a sort of like there was never this sort of like sympathy thing or that. I've actually like had the pleasure of sort of bumping into him at a few different points in time and stuff, and it was a good chat, a very down to earth guy. But yeah, in a weird way, I never, and it wasn't like a sympathetic sort of like, oh, I love Hibs, they gave me my chance. It was just like there was an acknowledgement of that in the part he played in his career, and I think as well, I'm quite glad that he didn't come back to Hibs either. Obviously Kevin Thompson came back, and I don't think you ever seen the same player that we did the first time round. Stephen Whittaker as well, done okay in his second spell, but I think being able to, and then obviously sort of reintegrating a little bit more with the club now, isn't he? And he's post-retirement.
Good as
We did-
Stephen Whittaker then as my centre mid. Actually, I just thought about that because he did play centre mid in his second spell, and he was absolutely outstanding.
Except in his very last game for us at Aberdeen when he got sent off. Uh,
Watch your mouth.
anyway, Craig, Harry, Liam, who isn't here, I'm going to pose one question. Are all four of us here being blinded, or are we looking too much into what he's done since leaving Hibs? We've all got John McGinn as our best central midfielder this century at Hibs, or is he entirely fitting of that reward for what he done in his 3 years at the club?
No,
Two, three,
he's
three.
absolutely fitting of it. Uh, he's probably my favourite Hibs player of all time, full stop. Never mind any positions. Him and Riordan probably competing for that. But John McGinn, just everything about him. First of all, what a player. Absolutely superb player. Great technical ability. But I think everything that goes along with it, the sort of intangibles of him, the work rate, the just the sort of personality and the guy that he is that goes along with the player. Uh, and he probably did buy into a wee bit more of the sympathetic side to Hibs and talks a lot about Hibs and how much he loves Hibs.
Hmm.
And played interviews obviously and won the Scottish Cup with Hibs, which obviously is just the cherry on top with John McGinn. But I could talk about John McGinn all day. I love him. I still follow his career
Yeah.
very, very closely. I watch a lot of Villa games, and obviously I'm delighted to see him play so well for Scotland as well. One of I think all time top goal scorers for Scotland,
Aye.
which is mental. And obviously, anytime John McGinn does anything, it's like, oh, by the way, did you know John McGinn used to play for Hibs? Uh, so
Well, he
yeah,
did.
he's the best. I love
I,
him.
I agree. I just wanted to be a little bit contrarian with that question, but obviously made his 200th Premier League appearance at the weekend as well, which is a little bit annoying. When we sold him to Aston Villa, you're thinking, day well there, get a move, bag us another tens of millions on the sell-on clause, but he's went on to, I mean, Aston Villa are a massive club, and he's captaining them in the Champions League quarterfinals. But I mean, in his time at Hibs, the ability, Harry, to just like it's well known, stick his arse out, but then to just carry the ball 60 yards. Do you know what I mean? Get literally like if you deep in your own half and like just absolutely bully players and just very early on looked a level above those around them, and especially in the championship. But then when we made the step up to the, because I would say as well, there was a period of time I think towards he came back from injury the season we won the championship, and there was a little bit of he's maybe not quite hitting the heights, but then that year in the top flight, I remember we played Dundee away earlier in the year, and Chris Boyd said that will be his last game for Hibs. But little did he know he'd go on to play for Hibs for another year and absolutely stroll it in the middle of the park in one of our favourite Hibs seasons. Do you have anything else to add on John McGinn?
I think it's hard being a player in Edinburgh when you're going up against another prodigy at the same time, and he's somehow, I don't know how he managed to have a better career than Harry Cochrane. And I think that just sums up. But in seriousness, even the goal at Tripoli, I just think that was such an iconic moment.
Of course, aye.
And the main word, if I could summarise him in one word, it was just tenacious. Like he was the type of player. Some players, when they carry the ball, and I'm not even going to mention, they carry the ball. It seems like they kind of carry the whole team forward with them. It seems like they can almost like open, like, you know, when FA Ambrose used to go on mazes and it just seemed like there was always passes would open up from as he ran. John McGinn just done the same thing, and the chemistry he had in that season was just ridiculous. Like, that midfield was just so in sync with each other, and I think that John McGinn was just the heartbeat of that Hibs team. And obviously, maybe aside from Sozzy, would probably be my shoe in for the best player whilst at Hibs period that we're going to name in all of these lists. I just thought he was brilliant. There's no bad words I'd have to say about him. And as Craig said, his personality off the pitch, we were blessed with the content when we went into the championship. To be fair, and he was a big part of that. So he's just all rounder was John McGinn.
I find that goal in Tripoli as well, that like is a testament to what he gave Hibs as well. Like every man in the dug knew he was moving that window. Was that his last game, or did he then maybe play a league
His last
game?
I
game was
think
Motherwell.
I was
Motherwell
going
at
to say I think
home.
he played a league game.
Because
Aye.
I remember, I can't remember. I think he maybe got an assist in that game for Ollie Shaw, 1-3-1 or
Aye,
3-0 or something like that. And I remember I turned to Harry's dad uh, after he played a pass or something that led to a goal. This was we knew he was leaving at this point. I was like, mate, he is too good for us now. Like he looked like you said earlier, a level above everybody else. Uh, what a player, and I'm glad he's had a great career.
hmm Oh,
It's
unbelievable.
emotional, eh?
Is there I find it interesting the player that's sort of most recent in this list would be Scott Allen's third spell. Now, not to be too critical of Scott Allen's latter stages of his third spell, I don't think he's in our team in our list for that spell. So he last played for the club in the 21-22 season. I think he did hang around till the end of the COVID season. Or in fact, no, he went off on loan to Inverness, didn't he? Do, do you find it in like was there anyone more recent than that you sort of thought about putting in? You know, we've sort
Joe
of
Newell.
got a quite condensed list.
Joe Newell was a consideration for me. That was just the one that I was sort of debating with him or Dylan McGeoch. Uh, Probably Harry won me over with the sort of no medal around him, and that's
Okay.
probably why I stood for Dylan McGeoch. But also added into that as well, McGeoch was just part of that midfield that worked so well
Yeah.
for Hibs and was so good for us during that spell. One of my favourite times watching Hibs outside the current spell.
hmm
So yeah, that's why I put him in. But Joe Newell for me was close because I really like him as well.
Yeah. Harry, what about you? So, because I'm looking at these and going, so Russell Latapy in a very good team at the sort of start of the, like 2001, 2002 sort of period.
Like
You've then got
if we're
Brown,
basing it,
you've got sort of Brown, Boozy from that team, and then the sort of all the other players are sort of in that sort of championship slash early Premiership period. Was there anyone out with they three areas that even got consideration?
not really, mate. To be honest, because like I think like after Brown, like I suppose Thompson, but I think we made it very clear on this pod that we're not the biggest fan of how much he loves Rangers. But the thing is for me with like more recent teams, I just think most of the players have kind of had short bursts of being very good. Like even like a Kyle McGuinness, for instance. Obviously, I wouldn't have put him in my list, but when he was good for Hibs, he was brilliant. Like even Jake Doyle Hayes had the COVID season where he was good, and then Craig jokingly said Papa Gogic, and like he was, I think he was very good for pretty much a whole season for Hibs. But again,
Stevie
just
Mallon's another one that you
yeah,
would add to that.
I didn't even think of Malin today, but yeah, Malin's a player that like, and even Joe Newell, like I just think that as I've said before, I think Joe Newell typically has like good halves of seasons and then kind of fizzles out, and
hmm
then but I think the players we've listed have had at least a full season or more
Yeah.
in which they've consistently performed, or they've got the longevity factor. So for me, there's definitely scope. If we finish third this year, Joe Newell comes
So
back from
yeah,
injury, has a great year. He could maybe make the list next year. But at the moment, I'm happy with the list that
so if
we've
I
got.
was to say like let's say just look more traditional 6 and 8. So if you took out Russell Latapy and Scott Allen from your list, are you sort of suggesting that Joe Newell would be in there and then maybe like a Marvin Bartley or something or
Joe
like
Newell would definitely be in mine if you take a couple out, yeah.
like
Uh,
from the more sort of out and out attacking midfielders, if you looked at maybe a more traditional central
yeah,
midfielder, he'd make it in.
definitely, yeah. It's difficult. I think Harry's probably right in saying that there is a lot of names in there that it would feel probably just a bit wrong to have them on a list like a top five list of Hibs. I just that were good in their own right, but not good enough to pin to that
If
kind of
Hibs
tag.
finish third this season and Triantis continues the form, maybe has a massive week. In terms of individual seasons, do you think what he's done this year could rival any of what they five players done in a individual one season?
I actually think that would uh, in the future be affected of how his career goes after he moves on from Hibs. Say if he was to go on to have a great career, I think that being in the back of your mind and knowing how good he was for Hibs, and then that he's had a cracking career afterwards, I think you would say, oh yeah, he's got to be in there.
Yeah.
But right now, I do think just now that there is a bit of recency bias with it, and when we talk about top fives, I know we said it we were in other positions, uh, that I think the sort of nostalgia element does play a big part in these types of things.
hmm
I mean, it's maybe a bit too soon for some of them.
So I think we've got a pretty consensus list here anyway, right? I know we normally debate this, but I think we can say between the four of us now, and correct me if you're wrong, I would say that we would be quite comfortable with this being the five. And I'm going to factor in the fact that we've probably got Russell Latipi maybe a bit lower because of our ages. So John McGinn number one, Russell Latipi number two, Scott Brown number three, Boozy four, Scott Allen five.
I think we have to, just because three of us had Scott Brown at two, I think he's flopped those two. Is that not right? Did we not?
Yeah, no,
Did all?
you're right. I know
That's
you're
what I
right.
was
So
thinking
Yeah,
in my head as
sorry.
yeah,
well.
but apart from that, that sounded perfect. Wait,
Aye.
who was 4 and 5? Sorry, Boozy four and then Alan
Boozy,
five.
then Scott Allen, aye.
I think that's fair as a
Sorry,
consensus.
Liam, but John O'Neill's losing out on the basis that
That's
you're the
not
only
really
one that
happy.
mentioned him. And Craig, you're not getting Dylan McGeoch.
That's all right. That's all right.
I mean, you were always going to be struggling there with Dylan McGeoch's number one hater sitting up in the left hand side of this of this
It was
call.
the last one on my list anyway, so I'll accept it regretfully.
Well, boys, I think that will just about do us for this week. Hibs bounced back after a shocking, devastating, season-ending defeat at Pittodrie and battered Dundee United 3-1 at Easter Road. It's only two defeats in 22 league games, which I believe could potentially be described as title winning form. It certainly doesn't feel like this season's coming to an end, and maybe that's because Hibs are just absolutely cooking. 8 home wins in a row. We will be back next week after Celtic Park, and then as we look ahead to the final week of the season. Cheers!
Oi.
Cheers.